Have you ever wondered what truly creates the abyss between a man who seems always crushed by fate and one who stands firm, composed before every storm of life? Many would say it is due to talent, luck, or family background. But if we look deeper into the silent laws of the mind, we will realize that the difference lies not in what happens to them, but in how they master their internal world. Bravery is not measured by physical strength or loud noise, but resides in a profound awareness. Today's video is a journey deep into the invisible walls we build to imprison ourselves, and the way to break them down. We will together explore the wisdom from ancient Eastern sages to Western Stoic philosophers, to understand that mastering life is mastering what comes out of your mouth and what takes place within your mind. When the ignorant, and here I use the word ignorant to describe those who lack philosophical understanding, always look outward, while the intelligent with wisdom look inward. But first, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel, so I can lead you into these wonderful philosophies. The walls of self-imprisonment. Every collapse of a man usually begins with unconscious habits. Common catchphrases that seem harmless, but are, in fact, the bricks building a prison for themselves. The first brick is blame. When facing adversity, an untrained mind tends to look outward. They blame the economy, their partners, or a cruel destiny. But deep down, blaming is the act of voluntarily handing the key to our happiness to strangers and circumstances. When a person cries out, "Why me?" they inadvertently choose the role of a victim, and a victim can never master the ship of their own destiny. The next brick is anger. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, once likened anger to a temporary fit of madness. It is the sign of a fragile spirit. If you say, "Someone made me angry," it means you are admitting your mind is a toy controlled by the behavior of others. However, we must understand that silence during anger does not equate to extreme emotional suppression. For if anger is merely pushed back without being transformed, it will return to gnaw at and exhaust our souls from within. The awakened person knows how to separate the event occurring from their own judgment of that event to maintain tranquility. Imagine you are walking in a crowded market and someone bumps hard into your shoulder. Your first reaction is to turn around, face flushed red, ready to shout because you feel insulted. But as soon as you see the person who just bumped you as a blind man holding a cane, your anger vanishes instantly, replaced by sympathy. The lesson here is, the event, the bump, remains exactly the same, but your anger changes based on how you judge the situation. If you assume they were intentional, you will be angry. If you understand it was accidental, you will be calm. Third is the habit of following the crowd. The ignorant often lose their identity because of a craving for external validation. They live according to the gaze of the crowd, saying yes when their heart wants to say no, just to be accepted. The fear of loneliness is sometimes so great that it dictates every decision, turning them into people who, always trying to please everyone, end up losing themselves. This dependency is the greatest barrier preventing us from reaching truly sustainable value. In contrast, the intelligent and wise always ask themselves, "Why must I live for the crowd if I find that content or topic valueless? Why should I show off? Do I need to waste time on these things to prove something that might not bring me any real benefit?" And finally, boasting and meaningless words. The ignorant often use speech to flaunt, to prove they are superior, or to fill the silences they dare not face. They ramble about personal adventures or assets, forgetting that a half-empty bottle is always the one that makes the most noise. Boasting does not increase their value. It only inadvertently arouses envy and reveals the vanity within. Contrasting the image of the half-empty bottle that always creates noise, the intelligent person or the high-value man regards words as a precious asset that needs to be managed carefully. Instead of using speech to fill the emptiness, they act according to these principles. Purposeful silence. They set silence as the goal in most conversations, only speaking when truly necessary, and expressing everything briefly and concisely. For them, silence is not a sign of weakness, but an expression of inner strength and cultivation. Prioritize listening over lecturing. They understand that we have 2 ears, but only 1 mouth, so that we listen more than we speak. They listen to truly understand the emotions and perspectives of the person opposite them, instead of just waiting for their turn to talk about themselves. Stay away from trivial gossip. The sage does not waste energy on talk about others, useless complaints, or hollow topics. They keep their minds clean from unnecessary scandals. Humility and non-ostentation. Instead of rambling about personal feats, they let actions and results speak. They understand that true success does not need the echoes of boasting, and often keep their plans private until completion to protect themselves from envy. Admitting the limits of knowledge. An intelligent person never pretends to know everything. They maintain the mindset of an empty cup, ready to ask questions and admit what they do not yet know in order to constantly learn and grow. In other words, while the ignorant use words to build a fake image, the intelligent and wise use stillness to consolidate true metal from within. Identifying these 4 walls, blame, anger, herd mentality, and ostentation, is the first step for a man to begin the journey of breaking the chains and advancing toward true freedom. The weapon of the wise. The art of stillness. There is a paradox that, in a world where everyone wants to be heard, the person who knows how to remain silent is the one with the most authority. This stillness does not come from having nothing to say, but from absolute self-mastery. A high-value man regards words as an asset, and he never wastes that asset on meaningless things. He sets silence as his guiding compass in most conversations, only speaking when truly necessary and always expressing himself briefly and concisely. For him, silence is a form of spiritual cultivation, helping him maintain stability amidst fluctuations and avoid the risks of slips of the tongue. His secret weapon is not the ability to lecture, but the art of active listening. Instead of just being silent to wait for his turn to talk about himself, he listens to truly understand the mindset and emotions of the person opposite him. He understands that only when we stop emitting the sounds of the ego can we hear the truths hidden behind the words of others. It is this very understanding that helps him build deep connections and solid trust without the need for any manipulative tactics. When forced to speak, the sage always does so with kindness, humility, and sincerity. He only says what he believes is righteous and necessary, turning words into a sharp tool to persuade and spread value. He stays away from trivial gossip about food, drink, or talk about others, for he understands that judging others in their absence is an injustice and pollutes his own mind. Silence at the right moment is not only wisdom, but also a type of lifestyle art. It helps resolve conflicts the moment they ignite and brings comfort to those around him. The person who knows how to be silent is the strongest, for they possess an inner world so rich that they do not need to rely on the applause or recognition of the crowd to feel that they exist. Facing the storm with Amor Fati, love of fate. Once you hold the weapon of silence in your hands, the next step on the journey of awakening is learning how to face the unavoidable upheavals of life. A man of mettle does not merely endure adversity. He learns to love it through the philosophy of Amor Fati, love of fate. Instead of lamenting, "Why is this happening to me?" the sage understands that every obstacle on the path is, in fact, the path to growth itself. Think of the image of a blazing fire. Everything you throw into it, whether rotten wood or refuse, becomes fuel for that fire to burn even brighter. Life is the same. Adversity is the fuel to temper the will. When the inventor Thomas Edison witnessed his entire factory engulfed in flames at the age of 67, instead of collapsing in despair, he stood calmly watching and regarded it as an opportunity to start everything anew from the ashes. That is the mindset of one who sees failure as an indispensable part of success. One of the greatest traps of our minds is turning the present into a waiting room for happiness. We often postpone contentment into a distant future. I will be happy when I have that position, or when I buy that house. But in reality, the future is only a mist, while the present is the only reality we truly possess. Those lacking wisdom waste time on frivolous anxieties, while the wise choose to live fully and act decisively right now. To protect the mind against unexpected shocks, Stoic philosophers left behind a powerful mental exercise: negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. This is not a curse or pessimistic thinking, but a mindful psychological rehearsal. We learn to imagine in advance the losses that could occur, from the loss of assets and health to the passing of loved ones. When we courageously face those pains in our imagination, we realize a truth. Human beings often suffer more in imagination than in objective reality. This anticipation not only helps us maintain composure when a real crisis strikes, but more importantly, it awakens a deep gratitude for what we currently have. Instead of taking everything for granted, we begin to cherish every breath, every conversation, and every peaceful moment of the present. Things that are inherently simple and mundane but bring us truly happy moments if you just pay attention. The journey of awakening we have just traveled is not a destination, but a process of persistent daily training. We have seen how the wise manage words through silence, master emotions by reevaluating their own judgments, and embrace the storms of life with a fearless heart. All of these lead to a single truth. The value of a man lies not in what he possesses, but in how he masters his internal world. Silence is not cowardice. It is the crystallization of wisdom. Accepting adversity is not resignation. It is the courage to turn every obstacle into fuel for the fire of metal to burn brighter. Before ending this video, take a minute to look back at yourself. In the words you spoke today, how much was complaint and how much was understanding? In the decisions you made, how much was your own choice and how much was to please the crowd? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel 365 Stories of the Wise Men to watch and listen to the great stories of the sages. Remember, every time you fall silent to think, every time you take responsibility instead of blaming, and every time you cherish the present moment, you are taking another step on the journey to becoming the wisest version of yourself. Awakening begins with your very next word. Thank you.